All right, continuing here with the idea of nativism. Again, nativism is the concept that people born natively to America, not Native Americans, let's not get confused with that. It is the white people that kicked the Native Americans off the land. They believe that they're superior to immigrants. If that's a little hypocritical, that's because it is. Now, things that fueled this thought process: competition for jobs and homes, and then resentment about religious factors and their cultural differences. All that stuff caused white Americans to hate immigrants. Again, competition for jobs. They're taking our jobs. If you've seen that episode of South Park, they're competing for homes. What that's going to do is that's going to cause people to have to live very confined spaces with a lot of people and drive the prices of homes up. So they're having to pay more money for their houses. You have religious reasons. And again, we talked about that, about the old and the new. People prefer Protestants, and now we're getting Catholics and Jews, and they don't like those people. And then the cultural differences between language and food and dress and celebrations and those types of things. All that stuff's causing tensions. All right. The next thing is now we're limiting who's going to come into our country. So the Chinese Exclusion Act is one of our first pieces of immigration legislation. And again, it shows that we don't like the Chinese. In 1882, it prohibited immigration by Chinese laborers, and it limited civil rights of immigrants in America. All right. It forbade the naturalization of Chinese residents, which means we didn't let them become American citizens. Now, if you read that first part, it prohibited immigration by Chinese laborers. That meant that we didn't want Chinese people to compete for jobs with us. We just wanted them to come in, and we'll look at that in a little bit more with the Chinese Exclusion Act, which there were 5 groups that we actually allowed into the United States. None of them could come in and take our jobs and be laborers. A later ruling reversed part of this that said before 1882, if you were already in the United States, you could be an American citizen. So nativism, again, can mean a lot of different things. You just need to understand it was anti-immigrant feelings. The more people that came, the more the people in the United States got upset. All right. They got less upset depending upon where you were from. And again, this is that old versus new immigrants. So if you were from British, remember Northwest, Germany's kind of in the middle there, but they liked German because that is where you have a lot of Protestants coming from. And then your Scandinavian countries, those are your more northern countries in Europe. They look like us, think like us, that type of stuff. All right. The bad are your Slavic countries. Those are the Eastern European. Latin, that's your Southern, and then Asian countries. All right. And Latin is not Latino. All right, because we've had very few Latinos coming into the United States. This is mainly Europe and Asia. And one thing you need to understand is that nativists dislike their religious practices a whole lot more than anything about the way they looked or their ethnicity, things like that. Now, some I want you to contemplate. What happens, and we've talked about unions in the last chapter, what happens when you have unions going on strike while there are immigrants coming to the U.S. looking for jobs? What's happening to the unions there? Well, what's happening is the unions are being undermined by immigrants because the factories don't have anybody to work because the people are on strike. Well, the immigrants come in and just take those jobs. So the labor unions don't have a leg to stand on, and they can't get what they want because the immigrants are just coming in and taking jobs. Remember, the labor unions were fighting for better working conditions and better pay. Well, if you have immigrants coming in that say, I'll work in an unsafe environment for cheap pay, then the labor unions aren't going to get what they want. So that's one of the things that's going to drive nativism even more. So please understand that there is a connection between nativism and the labor movement that we talked about last chapter. The unions, what are they going to do to stop immigration? Well, they can kill or hurt the immigrants, which is one of the things they do, or they could go to the government and ask the government for help stopping immigrants from coming in, and that's the more effective method. What you're going to want to watch here, this is one of the beginning scenes to the movie Gangs of New York. One thing I want you to focus on when you watch this is it says off to the left here, focus on how much of their hate for one another is based off religion. All right, so you'll have to watch this